right. Welcome to TalentED, where we're going to start sharing stories and insights from professionals making a difference in their fields. And I'm your host, Dr. Eric Skanson. And today we have a very special guest, Nancy Mikhail. And I'm going to just give a quick intro to Nancy. Nancy's a highly rated educational speaker with over 16 years of experience in the educational field. So we're super lucky to have her today. She strives to make all of her workshops practical, hands-on, strategies, proven methods to help each and every individual student thrive to their maximum ability. So if you might be thinking, well, what does that mean? What does Nancy talk on? Here's some of her signature topics. She talks about implementing project-based learning. That is captivating. She incorporates hands-on learning, creating your own curriculum, motivating teachers, students, and then also differentiating teaching strategies in the classroom, which pairs well with effective classroom management techniques. So just a wealth of knowledge. Nancy, welcome to the show today, and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and where you're talking to us from today, and maybe some of the things that you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I have been everything from, I started off from playing school as a child to becoming a tutor and working in nonprofit teacher working at the university level. And it's all kind of led me, all that experience kind of led me to here today, where I just love kind of sharing knowledge, collaborating with other educators, and working together to really figure out how to best teach every single student. I really truly believe that every student has the ability to learn, and it's up to us as educators to figure out those different techniques. And so we just collaborate on different strategies and techniques to reach every single learner. And some of the key topics, just like Eric mentioned, I talk about our project-based learning, incorporating differentiation strategies, STEAM, talking about classroom management, but also digging a little bit deeper and talking about motivation for the students as well as the teachers, because sometimes we all need motivation. So I feel like really digging deep and getting to the core of what's truly, I guess, wrong, so that we can work on fixing it and improving it to be able to effectively teach and learn. And that's kind of what I focus on and really love to talk about. And by the way, I'm talking to you from California, Orange County, California. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, it is great to speak with you today, and especially around this idea, I think, around project-based learning. And when you look at kids and when they're truly engaged, how often do we give kids a batch of Legos, and do we have to convince them to dig in and do something? And that's a really simple example, but something that they're highly engaged with. Motivation follows passion, right? And I think that's kind of this idea of project-based learning as well, and how do we bring these pieces to kids so that they can really engage. So I guess one of my first questions for you, Nancy, is just how can project-based learning be effectively implemented in classrooms to create that engaging, motivating, captivating learning experience for our students so that they can reach their potential?
Yeah. So the premise of project-based learning, like the core foundation, is answering that like essential question about the topic to solve a problem. And so in that itself, in answering the question, that already kicks it off in having the students really think on a higher level and access those higher level thinking skills like critical thinking, analyzing, problem solving, collaborating, and all of those things already are starting to really truly engage them and get them involved right away, right off the bat. And through this, students are researching the topics that they are supposed to be studying about, because they're the ones, they're kind of self-directing their own learning. while the teacher is there as a facilitator and to guide them, answer questions, be kind of an overseer of everybody, the students are really taking charge of their own learning. And this is through, some setup from the teacher and everything and guiding them. But really, once the kids are in motion, they can run with it. So kids start off by researching the topic, learning more about what they're supposed to be learning more to answer that essential question. And then throughout the process, one thing I really love to do during the project-based learning process is to incorporate some mini activities. So it's not just kind of like research-based, answer the question, but no, they'll maybe incorporate some art into it, or writing pieces, or extra maybe science experiments if it fits in with the project. And through that, it makes it a wholesome experience. And I love to say that learning should be an experience, because that's what we remember. We're going to remember experiences. We might not necessarily always remember facts, but we'll definitely remember how we felt when we're doing something. So that's what the idea is, for students to actually remember what they're doing and learning in the classroom. So I feel like through project-based learning, they can definitely focus on those key values and really focus on the hands-on component, but not just hands-on, but really those higher level thinking skills.
Nancy, do you see a link between high engagement and project-based learning and maybe even classroom behaviors? It seems like there would be a natural link there. I'm wondering if you can speak to any of experiences with that, because I know one of the things that you also talk about is classroom management. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I definitely think there's a strong link to that, because most, of the behaviors in the classroom stem from boredom. And if kids are truly engaged and having something to do, having a key role, feeling like what they're learning is focused on them, then they're less likely to misbehave. If they are misbehaving while you have all these engaging things going on, then there might be something else that's external, maybe going on at home or with friends, that needs to be addressed separately. But in terms of keeping them engaged and like classroom behavior, it definitely decreases the misbehavior in the classroom, because students have something to do. There isn't really a reason for them to be bored or to mess around, because they're having something to do within a group or even independently. So it is definitely correlated and helps them stay on task, be engaged. And if they're not engaged, then there's also maybe it's either too hard or too easy. And project-based learning really allows for differentiation, because you can give them maybe higher level thinking opportunities within project-based learning, or maybe have to scaffold them a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great insight. I'm right there with you, and I'm looking at your signature kind of topics, and you can see the interrelated connectivity between them, right? So we have project-based learning, and we have the right classroom management strategies that support project-based learning. Also about helping teachers and staff members create their own curriculum. I imagine linking that back to project-based learning, because there's plenty of big curriculum companies out there with basils and textbooks. But I think, at least personally, when we're trying to reach students and be personalized with them and have a really good experience with them, we have to be able to bring that as professionals and tweak that or create these units that are highly engaging. How have you maybe give us some examples or some ideas around how you've worked with teachers in creating the link between those three, or creating their own curriculum?
So when I was a teacher, I had the opportunity to create my own curriculum. And I was in the private school sector, so it was easier in that sense. But at first, it is nerve-wracking, especially as a new teacher and just having a bunch of textbooks and resources. But I wasn't required to use any one curriculum. But of course, teach the state standards.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my guidelines pretty much. And with a mentor and guidance, I was able to start to put together my curriculum and teach through project-based learning. So my planning was mostly thematic planning and project-based learning. And that's kind of how I always planned and how I always taught. I would use the textbooks as resources, so that I never kind of let them go to waste, but they were also a resource for the students and I, when we had to look stuff up or research, we would use them as a resource, as well as other things. Like we would find credible websites, and we would get books from the library. One thing that I always did as a teacher was go to the library, and if we were studying Native Americans, I would get every book I can on Native Americans and fill the classroom with that, because I just wanted it to be part of our atmosphere and part of the learning process, and have them be engaged. Look at maybe even some picture books, even for the older grades, correlating visuals with text. It's always good for everybody, I feel like. So just making it an experience overall. But in terms of working with teachers specifically, the idea is to work with what we have. So if they are required to use a certain curriculum, we can work within that. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of thing. And so we would work with the curriculum and see how we can make it more dynamic, more hands-on. It doesn't have to be, okay, teach lesson 1, 1.1 and read from the book and then do the workbook. It does not have to be that way. We can make it more dynamic. We can make it more visual. We can turn that unit into a project. So that's kind of how my approach when I'm working with teachers to specialize instruction.
I love that. And, as teachers, we find passion in that as well.
Yeah.
Instead of just picking up the book and doing somebody else's idea or somebody else's lesson, I've found that teachers are inherently very creative and love the autonomy. So I love the idea that you work with teachers to kind of bring their passion into their lessons and bring out the passion in kids. It's like a passion bomb. It just, explodes.
Absolutely. One thing I always say is that teaching is an art. It should be approached as an art, right? As a teacher and as an educator, we have the ability to reach all of these students in the best way possible. And when I say it's up to us as educators to make sure that each student is learning, it's because we can formulate, we can move things around, we can figure out new ways to teach them. So that's all an art. It's all creative in its own way.
And when we're talking about a teacher shortage and teacher retention right now, I think we would be best served to start listening to our teachers and letting them bring their passion into their work instead of having them just do the rote recitation. And love it. Okay, I'm going to switch gears for us a little bit. Everybody, Nancy is just a valuable resource. And if you want some of this work done and help facilitating it, Nancy is your person. And I want to make sure that you get connected with her. I want to test your knowledge of Minnesota a little bit. So I'm going to put you on the spot. And it's okay if you don't know the answers, but I'm sitting here in Minnesota, you're sitting in California, and I've got 5 questions, and I'm going to see how you do. All right?
Okay.
Number 1, what is the official state bird of Minnesota, known for its distinctive, booming call? Any guesses?
I would say a crow.
Close. It's black. It's black and white. It is a loon. A loon. We have so many lakes, and we love it when the loons are calling with their booming cry. How about this one? Which iconic singer and songwriter, often associated with Minnesota, released hits like Purple Rain and When Doves Cry? Prince, legendary singer. Yep, Minnesota's own. In the winter, many Minnesotans partake in a particular popular activity of ice fishing. Okay. What is the traditional shelter used for ice fishing called?
Is it like a shed, like those wooden sheds? I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting pretty close. Ice house or ice shanty is what we would call them.
Okay.
Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes, but the actual number of lakes in that state exceeds that count. So I want you to take a guess. How can you guess the approximate number of lakes in Minnesota?
I would say 15,000.
11,000. We're just above 10,000. That was kind of a tricky one. All right. And now my favorite, true or false? Minnesotans are known for their love of a hot dish. A casserole-like dish often made with a combination of ingredients, including tater tots, ground beef, cream of mushroom soup. You put it all together. What is this dish called?
Ooh, tater tot dish.
Good guess. Tater tot hot dish. Yes, hot dish.
So close.
We love our hot dishes in Minnesota. That's how we eat. That's how we stay warm in the winter. Have you ever had tater tot hot dish, Nancy?
I actually haven't, and it sounds amazing. I was going to say, I feel like anyone would like that.
Right. Yep. It's a base of like hamburger and vegetables and cream of mushroom soup. And then you top it with tater tots. You put it in the oven and then you sprinkle cheese at the last minute. So I'm going to suggest maybe you find some time to make this at home so you can experience a little bit of Minnesota.
I'm definitely going to look it up.
All right. So that's a little bit of Minnesota. Let's recap here a little bit. Nancy, project-based learning helps writing with tailoring your own curriculum, has classroom management techniques to go with that. Is there anything else you'd like to add around kind of your specialty areas or a call for action for our audience?
Yeah, so definitely one thing that I really strive in all of my workshops or talks is for them to be interactive and hands-on, because I definitely can't talk about all these effective hands-on strategies
Right.
without actually doing them. So my goal with any professional development is for teachers to actually gain tools and practice what I'm preaching pretty much, so that they're going to be more effective in implementing it into their classroom. So everything that I do and everything that I talk about is aimed for teachers to walk away feeling confident and able in order to implement the different strategies and dynamic ways of interacting and teaching children. And so if you're interested, I don't know if there's a certain way they connect with you and to connect with me, or I can give a website. I don't know if that's
yeah, whatever you feel like. Yes. Yeah.
So I have all my information on nancymikhail.com. And then I also have a podcast called the Inspirational Educators Podcast that I talk about different teaching strategies, and can listen anywhere you get your podcast.
There we go. Folks, you have it. Nancy Mikhail from California is going to make some tater tot hot dish and teach you how to create your own curriculum and keep it super engaging. And that's what you would experience if you worked with Nancy yourselves. So with that, thank you, Nancy, for joining us today. And everybody else, thank you for tuning into this episode of TalentED. And if you'd enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, yes, please contact us. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and stay PKS, which is stay positive, kind, and supportive. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Thank you.